All right, guys, welcome to this session. This is actually 7.5, and in 7.5, 7.5 kind of seemed like the summary of the whole procedure. In chapter 7 of the textbook, we actually studied techniques of integration, right? We had looked at trigonometric integrals, integration by parts, trigonometric substitution. We've looked at, using the idea of partial fractions. We've looked at, these things in the past. So, and 7.5 kind of brings everything together, okay? So 7.5 is about strategy for integration. Okay, so now sometimes you have an integral problem or you have a function where it could be a mix of a lot of things. You could have to start with the u sub at some point. You have to do a trigonometric substitution at some point. You got to do other things. Okay, so we just want to see in those cases, what do we do? Okay, so actually, the table of these constants have been omitted. Okay, so there should be a plus c. Okay, so there's going to be a plus c throughout, but for the sake of brevity, the constants are omitted. So take note, guys, there should be a plus c. So number one, let's look at this. These are just things guys. So when you want to integrate a function, let's say integral of x squared dx, what do? This is just s cubed plus 1 over s squared plus 1 plus c, right? And this is just the formula. So each and every one of these guys are like formula sheets in themselves. Okay, they are just like formula sheets in themselves to help you find, to navigate the next steps. Now, what happens if the correct method is not immediately obvious? Okay, when you see a problem and you're not really sure what exactly will work, now what can you do? Number one, you can actually simplify the integrand. Okay. Step one, think about simplifying the integrand. Okay, so a good way to think about that is this. Now, these are various examples. Okay, so let's call this guy example 1, call this guy example 2. This is 3, this is 4. All right, so I do have a square root of x. Let me just pick the first guy. Now, to simplify the integrand in this case, just distribute, right? If you distribute this guy, you exactly have square root of x plus x. And then you're good to go, right? Now, in this other case, example 2, you just rewrite what is tangent. Tangent is sine over cosine. Okay, so this is just the idea of simplifying the integrands. Okay, so now what else can you do? Step 2. If the first step fails, then you can talk about step 2. Okay, so in step 2, what do? That's where you do a u sub. You got to look for an obvious substitution. Now, what can I replace, or what can I, what can I make my u such that the other guy is going to cancel out? Okay, so that in this case now, this is an example, number 1. In this first example, this is using partial fraction, guys. And in this example, this is the same example 1, but over here, we use the u sub. So that means if you have an integral problem, you can use more than one method, depending on what the integrand looks like. Okay, keep that in mind, guys, depending on what the integrand look like. So 7.5 is just like a summary. That's why I'm not really spending a lot of time here. As a summary of everything we've done before. Now, if you look at this example 2, this is still using partial fractions, right? Partial fractions, PF. Okay, the other guy is just using u sub. All right, so that's step 2. At the level of step 3, what can you still do at step 3? You can classify the integrand according to its form. Now, sometimes we said the first step is actually to try to is actually to try to simplify the integrand. Okay, good. It can work sometimes. We say step 2 is find an obvious substitution. Good and fine, it can work too. So what if step 1 and step 2 does not work? So you have to classify the integrand according to the form. And now we have to talk about trigonometric functions. You know, is it a trigonometric function? Is it a rational function? Or do I need to do integration by parts? Or is it about the radicals? Okay, so this 7.5 again is just like a summary of the whole thing. And in step 4, now if step 1 to 3 has not produced an answer for you, what do? You try again. Okay, so what does it mean try again? You try the substitution, try integration by parts. You kind of find a way to manipulate the integrand. Sometimes for surds, you know, for surd, surds, that has square roots. Sometimes you have to think about rationalization, okay, where you rationalize. And then it says relates the problem to the previous problems. I give you an example, guys. Suppose I do have let's say we do have a 2 minus 4x squared dx. But the general form that we already know, or the general expression, we knew something like this, right? So I can just relate this guy to this guy and be able to solve it. Okay. So, and then there are examples I want you guys to try your hands on here, and you got to try your hands on it. So the fifth guy says use several methods. Sometimes you use integration by part after a substitution, or sometimes it could be trigonometric functions. So, and then these are examples. These are more examples that have been solved. I want you guys to solve them as well. I mean, it's just a summary of everything we've done. So that's why I'm not really dwelling a lot in this session. So this is just to give you a general overview of everything we've said so far. And then I still have questions for you here, that are examples, a lot of them that has been solved, very explanatory and very explicit enough to go by. And then if you look at this guy, this first example, this is a first method, first answer, right? This is a method, this is another method, okay? So sometimes you have a function, you have an integrand, you can use more than one method, okay? So 7.5 is as short as this, guys, because it just summarizes everything we've done before now. I hope you guys are going to practice this example. I hope you guys are going to solve them. So this is the first example. Okay, I hope you solve them. So this is the second example. Then you have the third and you have the fourth. Okay. All right, guys. See you in the next session. Bye-bye.